Welcome to the Acclivity Academic Career Advancement Podcast. I am Dr. Loren M. Hill, your academic career advancement coach. And today I wanted to spend some time kind of going back to the beginning. And the beginning really starts with the name of the acclivity, right? So for context, I'm usually talking to you all and those that I coach about staying relevant and knowing when it might be time to pivot or when it's time for a refresh. And part of what we're doing this year in 2025 is really reflecting on our past year's services and what got us here, what's going to keep us here, and what's going to move us forward. So let's start with the name. All right. So when I first started my business, and y'all know that I am also a licensed clinical psychologist, part of my services were really focused around behavioral health. And my company's name was Hill Behavioral Services. And that was many years ago. And what I found was that while I wanted to really stay true to having part of my name in my business, I wanted to be mindful that what the name of my business was really reflected the depth and breadth of the services that I offered. So I decided to pivot the name a bit. And one of my dear friends and I did some brainstorming about like what could we change the name to that would still hold the essence of, me, my name, Loren Hill, and think about, what could be a word play, if you will. So we did a deep dive on word search, and what we sort of landed on after a while was acclivity. And so, what does acclivity mean? Acclivity literally means an upward slope or ascent. So my last name is Hill, you know what a hill is. So acclivity is the same thing, but it's also a word that isn't really used a lot. So then it becomes a talking point like, wow, what does acclivity mean? It gives you an opportunity to discuss what this upward slope means and why it's tied to hill. So we'll get into more about that in a moment. So getting back to acclivity and it being an upward slope, what I found in helping people in the behavioral health realm as well as coaching was that many times people felt like they were, trudging upward, but weren't always having success, right? So one of the things that I talk to people about is this the Greek mythology around Sisyphus, right? So for those of you who may know or may not know, he was sort of cursed by the gods to push this boulder uphill every day, only for at the end of the day it to fall back down the hill, not on him, but it would just roll back down. So his task was pushing this boulder uphill, and then at night it'd come back down, and the next day he'd be back up again. So what I found and what many people that I've worked with over the years felt like they were just trudging, trudging, trudging. Sometimes they would make it to the top of the hill only to, tumble back down a little bit, or they make it halfway up and not know how to continue to go. And some people would go up and then they'd find, all right, I'm up now. I got to go down again to another valley to get back up. So again, this word hill and acclivity, it's all rooted in what our careers could feel like at times. So when you think about that, and again, acclivity literally means an upward slope or ascent. And that's exactly what your career should feel like. So it should feel like you're ascending. Now, you may need help along the way. Sometimes it's a more difficult journey and sometimes it's less, but we should always be trying to move upward and forward. progress, momentum, moving towards something bigger. So again, that's sort of why I chose the name Acclivity. And I want you to think about your career and leadership journey really isn't about standing still. It is about the climb, right? Climbing, growing, breaking through barriers. And I wanted a name to reflect that commitment towards forward movement because staying stuck really isn't an option. I mean, it is. You all know I have all these ampersands, but I like to kind of scratch that off the list. We're not going to stay stuck. We're not going to stay still because things are always moving. And if you're stuck or you're still, then things will pass you by and you'll find that you're further and further behind. So let's cross that off our list, right? So career growth really is like climbing a hill. You don't just wake up one day at the top. It takes strategy, it takes effort and endurance. If you've ever felt stuck or unseen or unsure about what your next steps are, believe me, you're not alone. I've been there, and I have been fortunate at times to have people help me along the way. And then other times I just kind of had to trial by fire and figure it out on my own. And that wasn't always fun. But, there's ways in which you can do that that really cause you to sort of go inwards and do some self-exploration. But you need support, right? And my job is to help you navigate the path upward. So if you're a woman of color or a person of color in academia, you know that the road to leadership is actually steeper, right? Doesn't really matter what type of institution you may be at. Um, we just know the data shows us time and time again that women in leadership positions are viewed differently. There's less access to those positions. And, we can go on and on about that. But because I've been there, I've helped people, I am here to help equip you with the tools, mindsets, and strategies, not just to navigate the system, but to really rise above it, right? So the Acclivity mindset is about keep climbing, keep going. Success isn't about reaching one peak and then stopping. It's about onward, upward growth. You deserve to be in rooms where decisions are made, and I help you get there and stay there, right? So you have to be in places where you're visible, and we talk about that as well. We help you with that visibility, your profile visibility. Your good work doesn't always stand on its own merit. I was traveling abroad over the holidays and I had some interesting conversations with some people who were from different parts of the world. And they talked about this concept of, well, isn't America's uh, really based on merit? And I was like, well, let's see what definition of merit you're using. And while that would be good and fair, there's a lot of variables that go into merit, starting from the beginning, and that has a lot to do with access, right? Access and entree. So how do you get in these rooms, even if you haven't been there before? What if you don't feel confident? What if there's some other things going on? And that leads me to my next area, right? Have you ever felt like you don't belong? Like you're waiting for permission to kind of sort of take up space? Um, Many times in some cultures, being a woman or being younger, you are kind of taught like you're seen and not heard, right? And sometimes you're not even seen, you're just over there somewhere. But as you evolve in your career and you're in the workplace, there are many ways in which you can be in the space, take up space legitimately, be seen and heard. And let me tell you, many, many times when I'm working with people, and I even have to work with myself on this for years, is that imposter syndrome is real. It is a real thing. And so those voices that we've heard over and over and then have internalized make us feel like we don't belong. So although it, merit and level playing field and, you could get here just by your hard work, all of those things are out there in the conversation, but I'm here to tell you that you're not alone. You're not crazy. This stuff is going on, gaslighting, you name it. But it doesn't have to define your career. I'm proof of that, and I have others that I've assisted along the way that can sort of testify to that as well. So I help you own your expertise, advocate for yourself, and push past those limiting beliefs. Some of those are internal, but then some of the ones that we have to fight, those external battles, you have to have a plan and a strategy, and you've got to have a team, right? So why an incline is an important metaphor. So, growth isn't instant, it is a process. Your career is not a sprint, it is an incline. So, part of what we do here at Acclivity is really help you think about what is the big mission you have, starting at the end and working your way back. Some of us have gone through these exercises where you imagine yourself 50 years in the future, some 5 years in the future, 10, etc. But if you think of the end point in mind, then you can strategize back to where you are and be systematic about working that, getting that win. How do you get to the top of that hill? Um, Part of it is, we're going to have to go through some steep parts. That's okay because that's where the strength is built. Setbacks, those are part of the climb as well. So during those lulls or those low times, or you're sort of in the valley, or you feel like the boulder has rolled you back to the bottom of the hill and you have to restart. I think part of the process is doing an assessment, right? Well, okay, I got to this point. Clearly, I have some skills. What can I do to get me beyond the next point again, right? So the acclivity is about helping you to embrace that journey and moving forward with intention. So, coaching really is a catalyst for your success. Remember, no one advances alone. Although some people would have you think that, it's totally not true, right? And I'm here to be 10 toes in on letting people know no one advances alone. Even the most successful professionals have mentors, coaches, and strategies. They may not, acknowledge that that's what those people were, but I'm here to tell you that that is what they have had. And whether they formally call them that or not, we need these teams to help us move forward, right? So if you're waiting for an opportunity to come to you, I'd like to suggest that you shift your approach, right? There are opportunities around us all the time, but sometimes they might land in your lap, but you've got to know what to do with it. A lot of times it takes the work, whether you're networking, whether you're connecting, you got to be top of mind for somebody to notice you, right? Somebody's in that meeting, whether it's your coach, your mentor, your sponsor, your champion, one of your peers, someone in your team who can put your name forward and support your good work beyond what's on your CV or your resume. So I help you build those skills. I also help you with confidence building, right? Many times, if we think back to what I mentioned earlier in terms of imposter syndrome or these external messages that we are constantly bombarded with, it can really rock your confidence, right? So it's okay to have somebody cheering you on, and it's okay for you to cheer yourself on. So I help you with that. Also, help you really think about your network, whether it's to build it, whether it's to assess it, what's working, what's not working. And all of these things, building skills, confidence, and networks, all go to actively help you shape your career instead of, waiting for it to happen. Or even being so buried under your work that you can't even think about advancement because you're just trying to keep it together day to day to keep your job. So the things that we offer here, and how I can help you and others move forward is really about career strategy and leadership coaching. So, for ambitious professionals who are ready to move up, and I would even encourage those of you who may be, like I mentioned just a minute ago, overwhelmed, buried, don't even know where to start, right? So some people are like, yes, I'm ready to go. I know I need to get, that rank promotion, or I'm ready to go for this academic leadership position. But then some of us are not, that's not even on our radar, but I want to help you get it on your radar that it's not just about showing up and doing the job every day. There's ways in which you can continue to make a difference and have a greater magnitude by being strategic and letting me partner with you. We also offer workshops and executive training to help organization develop diverse, effective leadership. And I underscore effective, right? So that's important. And so I want to emphasize that, there are many types of diversities. And I think that sometimes people may get confused about diversity at the expense of, right? And for me and how I've moved through my career and assisted people, because diversity to me means various things. It could be age, it could be gender, it could be ethnicity, it could be diversity of thought, right? I have a PhD, but I've worked with people who, have doctors in science, and I mean SCI, big D, right? Or whatever, right? But when you have diversity of thought, that is really, really important for to be an effective leader, right? So we want to be mindful that we are really tapping and growing people who are effective at their jobs. So the other thing that we work on here is personal branding and visibility strategies to make sure the right people see your value. And that sometimes can be a challenge, but we can definitely assist you with that. It's not as hard as it may seem, but we have to have a strategy around it, and we have to really assess the spaces that you're in, and are those good investments in your resources, meaning your time and effort. So career growth really requires a plan slash strategy. I can't say it enough. You all know that I love the word strategy because I'm all about it, right? I think, and it's been my experience, anecdotal, and the research bears this out, that too many professionals work hard but stay invisible. Some of that is because they don't necessarily have a plan, but I also think that mostly it's because they're overwhelmed with work, right? You are so excited to get this position, you end up there, you've fulfilled everything, in the job requirements. You're doing your job, you're teaching your load, you're running your department, you're running your institution, and the work just buries you. So you're so busy working and doing a good job at your work that there's no room for you to think about yourself and your career advancement. And even, what's the end game here, right? So you have to position yourself strategically. and not just hope somebody notices you. I remember there was a point in my career where one of my champions said, Loren, look, you got to get out there. You're doing all this great work, but who knows that you're doing it? And I was like, well, my chair knows, my dean knows, and he was like, I'm in those rooms. They don't know what you're doing. So let's get it together. And I was shocked. I was like, really? They don't know? It's like, no, how could they know? You're just so used to doing all this good work that you haven't really had a chance to promote yourself. So, okay, I got it, I did it, and nobody had to tell me that again, right? And so I sought out some advice on how to not really make myself like, look at me, look at me, look at me, but to go kind of look at me, look at me, right? So there's a strategy to that, and we help you with that as well. I also teach you how to take control of your narrative, get in front of decision makers, and confidently step into leadership roles. Now, you might say, okay, Lorraine, you just talked to me about work, work, work. You mean you want me to do more? Well, maybe, but maybe not. Maybe you're already doing it, right? So a leadership role could be taking on, the chair of a committee or a chair of a search or something that's kind of time bound so you don't get saddled with more work to do. But again, we have to be strategic about this because what can happen is if you're the person that's always doing good work and you're working and you're showing up, people will continue to give you assignments and you may not know how to say no, right? So setting boundaries is also something that I'll help you with. So the next thing is the power of visibility and networking. Your work speaks for itself again, but only if people actually see it, right? So there are ways in which I can help you to make sure that you are seen and your work is seen and it's not, there's this balance I have found, and I know that this can sometimes be a little unsettling for women and people of certain, cultural, ethnic minority communities. I raise my hand for that because you don't want to seem like you're bragging or boasting or any of that. But that's not what I'm talking about, right? I'm not talking about that. Look at me, look at me, look at me. I'm so terrific. I'm really talking about like, here's my work. And here's my work and my work is terrific and I've done it, right? So we want to be mindful of that. And you have to own and claim your work because here's the other thing that happens. I've seen it more than I'd like to, admit. It happens in our industry and it happens in others. If you don't take credit for your work, somebody else will. And I'm gonna leave that right there. Okay. So I help you build a professional network, amplify your expertise, and make sure your name is in the right conversations. So we need them to be talking about you. They're going to be talking about somebody. So let's talk about you and talk about the added value that you bring. You don't just need a seat at the table, you need to own your voice once you're in there. And I remember someone on a board once said to those of us in the room, we were all on the board of this nonprofit, and they were saying, it's important that you have a seat at the table because if you're not, you may be on the menu. Okay, right? So if you're on the menu, we've all seen a menu no matter where we go to eat, right? People are making selections off of that menu. So when we think about being on the menu as a metaphor, either somebody's going to pick you or they're going to pick somebody else. They may pick you and toss you to the side, but you are an option. But if you're at the table, then not only are you not the one that's going to be picked over, passed over, or not enjoyed, I'd like to advance this concept that if you're at the table, you are able to pick somebody else, right? And I have done that time and time again. I've been in selection committees, I've been in rooms, I've been in places where here are the menu of, people that we can pick for this. And me saying, who I wanted mattered. Now, it may not have always gone in the way that I wanted, right? They may not have selected my candidate or my program or my idea or the initiative that I added to the menu, but at least I was part of that conversation, and I'm pretty proud about that. So now that we know more about Acclivity and Hill and, staying relevant and how we can help you, I want to really give voice to what we're going to keep doing, right? My mission has always been to create a powerful space for leadership development, especially for those who've been historically overlooked. Now, I may not have really had it as succinctly as that, but I think over time I've come to realize that that's really what I'm doing, right? It has been my mission and my purpose. So some of the things that, I'm already doing, but will continue to do and even elevate are getting more coaching credentials. I offer workshops and strategic visibility counseling so that more professionals can break barriers and move upward. So I hope to, be able to engage you around those things. And so, if you're ready to step into leadership, if you want to level up your career, if you want to take control of your success, I really want to encourage you to know that this is your time, right? This is your time. And I am happy to partner with you. What we do here, the three words that we're always using are elevate, empower, and excel, right? Elevate, empower, and excel. And those are three words that I live by. And I am so proud to have this space and be able to connect with you all and support you. And I'm grateful, and I hope to hear from you soon. And I wish you well this year. And I'm excited for the other things that will be unfolding with Acclivity this year. And thank you for taking this journey with me, which much, much, much gratitude. So once again, I am Dr. Loren M. Hill, your academic career advancement coach. And I thank you for spending time with me.